aboard, 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning. We are here today to pay homage to honour 40 years of the Christchurch Percussion community, which began with a man called Tom Williams and his colleagues from the New Zealand Army Band. They set up the Canterbury Percussion Ensemble, the Percussion Concert Series. They started with one set of West Indian steel pans, one small marimba, a few toys and some concert instruments. The concept back then was to take percussion from the back of the band or the back of the orchestra and to bring it forth into the world a little bit. And that took the group around the country and into Asia as well over its history. So this week, 40 years later, we had more than 150 primary school mallet percussionists this week playing in a concert called Strum, Strike and Blow. We have here today, at least a few, most of the 2022 New Zealand Chamber Music Competition Percussion Ensemble champions. We have, as you've heard from him, the incomparable Justin Dahar running our university program, and the Pandemonium Trust, which we represent, celebrating 25 years of supporting this percussion community. In Christchurch, just about the bottom of the world, just before sort of Scott Base, aren't we? There's not too many people around to tell us what to do, give us some predetermined view on what we should be doing on this journey. So we've kind of done our own thing over the last 40 odd years, which has been a lot of fun. And I want to offer, as we go, just a couple of stories. This is a Sunday morning, we're not going to play the whole time. A few things that we've learnt along the way. The first year questions welcome, Murray. As long as I can understand them. Oh, so we can play. Oh, okay. Yeah. Tell me when she's ready. The first thing is that we have interesting instruments to look at, right? And we can present concerts in different ways. And what we were looking to do in the arrangements of winter and summer that we began was to showcase how the parts of the music fit together. When you have different musicians playing the same thing, it's hard to figure out how they all fit together, but you can see that the lines are very, very close at times. And so we can do that by attempting to play them on one instrument when we're feeling so brave. But we don't just need to rely, this is our second learning, we don't just need to rely on this sort of visual, rhythmic, pyrotechnics and sound and colour sort of thing. We also have beautiful sounding melodic instruments, and so we can do melody and harmony, and it often surprises people that we can do that. The CSO asked us for options for their program next year. We gave them a whole bunch of options, any of them rhythmically, reasonably pyrotechnic, and they chose this next piece, which you can see is not. It's the late great Engel Richards arrangement of Frederick Delius's On Hearing the First Cuckoo in Spring. And cuckoos are not known to be rhythmically pyrotechnic in any way, shape or form. So if you Google Engel Richards, you will see lots about him in terms of his wonderful world of percussion, massive lot of percussion instruments, thousands of film and TV recordings and things. When we got to work with him about 15 years ago, he told us that his favourite musical moments were melodic, be that improvisation or taking someone's phone number and turning that into a rhythm which turned into a melody, which you won't hear here. for a mid-morning summer snooze. Changing up a little bit, our next tip, our next learning is that percussion and technology make a really good mix. We've used backing tracks, sample sounds, and a variety of digital effects in our performances. The next piece is called Fabian Theory. It's performed by Rome. This piece, composed in 1987, was, we understand, to be the first piece combining marimba and electronic effects. It includes live looping and digital delay in particular, so it's not a backing track. It was commissioned by Synergy Percussion for Australian composer Nigel Westlake, who's best known amongst percussion circles for his piece on phallocentric action. The name Fabian Theory, does anyone know? Here we go, first question of the morning. Who was Fabian? I didn't know either. He was a Roman dictator. He fought a man called Hannibal Barca, in 217 BC. And so Fabian Theory is, this guy beat him, little guy beat big guy. Wasn't a slingshot and a little stone. He outsmarted him. So the Fabian Theory is about fighting or playing or working harder, not smarter.
jury too. It was a duo, wasn't it? Not a solo. Morning. You can play now, Jeremy, you're here. Yeah, you can all play. Don't sit down. Later. Our next tip is that we have learned there can be a fine line between engaging and alienating an audience or key audience members. We learnt this lesson, I learned this lesson with the Right Honourable Helen Clark when she was PM in Minister of Arts. We had played an awards ceremony where she was sitting right near the front, and there was a bit of concern because our instruments were electric angle grinders, a pyrotechnic artist firing long pyro out of both arms, and those sorts of things. And she was right in front. We didn't understand the concern, obviously, but some people had a bit of concern. We had a rather narrow stage, a very long cyc screen behind us, and lots of public liability insurance, so we thought we were okay. Who was that? Sounded like my voice.
Ghost in the machine.
Ghost, yeah. Anyway, we pulled that gig off, which was good. And she was responsible for arts funding at that time, so it was important we didn't offend her. Not that long later, AMI Insurance, who were the principal sponsor of Christchurch Symphony, were nominated for an arts sponsorship award. And we had a decent budget to go up to Auckland Town Hall and play for the awards ceremony. So we thought, why not up the last one a little more? So we had, were you there, Lenny? APO days? We had quite a bit of pyro on the stage, which was fine. We got away with it again. We pulled that off. We got off stage rather hot and sweaty and smelly from the pyro and the like. And the CEO came running backstage and said, "Prime Minister wants to meet you." And I said, "Can I clean up first, please?" And he said, "No." So I followed him out dutifully. He was very gracious in some opening statements. And then she said, "I bet that was more interesting than playing Mozart." And my brain was reasonably fried and I didn't really know how to respond, so I just said, "We don't get to play much Mozart." It was mostly written before they were thinking of percussion. And there was this awkward, stunned silence and this ashen look on her face, and then she just turned straight around and started a new conversation with the person right beside her, ignoring me completely. I thought the days of funding for the arts might be over. Thankfully they weren't. Anyway, we would like to dedicate this next piece, which is an arrangement of some Mozart, to the Right Honourable Helen Clark. And this is not a political statement. Our semi-final tip is that there are heaps of opportunities for percussionists, public events, award ceremonies, conferences, and the like, including back in Christchurch. We were before the earthquakes, disappeared for a little while when we didn't have a convention centre, but it's just down the road again now, and that world is opening up again very quickly. However, two of our most memorable events occurred at cricket matches. The first, with the Canterbury Percussion Ensemble, was in the days immediately before DJs at large sports events. Some people may not have been alive when that was a thing, but there was live music before the DJs, and we may have put a stop to that. We may have brought the DJs on, which I think was actually a good thing. We got, with our steel band, got to be the warm-up for the West Indian cricket team a few times, which was a lot of fun, having these very, very tall people dance around some of us not so short tall people in warm-ups. And then we had this guy called Chris Cairns, who was a Canterbury and New Zealand cricket player, and he liked a bit of audience assistance when he was running in to bowl. And so we were in a sort of a bit of a dugout and mic'd up, and so our job was to lead the crowd, not only in the run-up, but also at other times when there was a 4 or a 6 and someone got out or whatever. We had these set things to play, a little bit like what the Warriors did with the old drummers for a while. Anyway, what we didn't know was that we weren't completely in charge of the sound. And when we stopped playing, there was a bit of delay on the sound and the speakers were pointing towards the pitch. The sound went on a little bit longer. So we had the dubious experience of possibly being the first musical group in history to stop an international cricket match live on television, and to have the umpire walk over towards us, making it very, very clear that we were not wanted anymore. And it wasn't me. One of my team got a little bit keen and carried on a little bit too long after the delivery, and the sound echoed around. The Pakistani batters were very unhappy, so we stopped the cricket match. And then they brought on DJs, and there have been DJs ever since. So sorry to anyone else who had hoped to play live at international cricket matches. It was probably our fault. Anyway, we were pleased a number of years later in 2015 when the Cricket World Cup had its opening and closing ceremonies here to actually be allowed to come back and be involved in cricket. And on the closing ceremony, we were one of the acts, and as we walked onto the stage, the audience was a long way away, and the guy said to us, he said, "Just smile for the cameras. There are between 2 and 4 billion people behind these cameras." In other words, watching their screens on the subcontinent, India, Pakistan, etc. So, yeah, don't screw up. Anyway, so that combination of instruments has served us well with that sort of event, but sometimes we've also been called in awards ceremonies and things like that to play just on the one instrument. So with the giveaway that happened just before helping us out, you may recognise this piece. going to expand our team for our final piece. We're going to take a couple of minutes to get ourselves reset, then I'll come and tell you about it. Our last tip is that it takes a community to support and raise a percussionist. We're expected to be able to play up to 400 different instruments from around the world. This is expensive and challenging in our little corner of the globe. We've found that the charitable trust we set up and behind all of this has been a really good way of raising funds and having a structure, if you like, to support our percussion groups and our students. We also have reciprocal usage agreements with the university, with the School of Music, the Christchurch School of Music, Symphony Orchestra, Pandemonium, and schools and individuals, which means we don't all have to try and buy everything. I noted at the beginning when the CPE first formed, the Canterbury Percussion Ensemble first formed, everything could fit into one small trailer, just about. And this morning there was a little bit more than that in the loading dock, trying to find its way around. No such thing as a 5-octave marimba back then. We've got 7 to choose from now around here. Our final piece is called Cloud Folk by John Sarthis. John is an amazing composer, Kiwi composer. You'll hear some of his other pieces today, I understand. So we're joined by Rachel, Vicky, Emma, Jono, Doug and Murray for this piece. And our significant other is Ian Brandram Adams, who took on the challenge of being our rehearsal conductor. This is not a standard piece, to pull together, so thank you, Ian. John wrote the following program notes for Cloud Folk. He says, the Cloud Folk are imaginary visitors to Earth, visibly parked in our upper atmosphere, observing 21st century human behaviour. I'd imagined an arrival driven by optimism, intense curiosity and excitement, quickly followed by, guess what? Incomprehension, shock, and the hastiest possible departure. Wonder why. Back into a wonderful universe teeming with life. With no contact made, in fact contact avoided at all costs by our visitors, we were never aware that we had been visited. The music loosely follows this narrative. Thanks again for joining the early shift. Thank you, Justin and your team. And please stick around for the rest of the day.